If you've been managing your blood sugar for any length of time, you probably think you know what's happening inside your body. You check your numbers, you take your medication, maybe you've cut back on sweets. You feel like you're doing everything right. But here's what I want to tell you right at the start. The biggest threat to your blood sugar isn't what you think it is. In fact, most people, and I mean most diabetics, are walking straight into a trap they can't even see. And the frustrating part? It's not your fault. Nobody really talks about it. Your doctor might not even mention it. But it's silently affecting your numbers every single day. I've spent years talking to people just like you, and I keep hearing the same story. They say, I do everything I'm supposed to do, but my numbers still don't improve the way I expect. Or worse, my numbers are actually getting worse, and I have no idea why. They feel confused. They feel like they're failing. But the truth is, they're not failing at all. They're just missing one crucial piece of the puzzle. And when they finally understand what that piece is, everything changes. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that trap is. I'm going to explain why it works the way it does, and more importantly, I'm going to give you practical steps you can take starting today to escape it. This isn't complicated medical theory. This is real, everyday information that could genuinely shift how your body responds to your diabetes management. So if you've ever felt frustrated with your blood sugar numbers, or if you've wondered why your efforts aren't paying off the way they should, this video is specifically for you. Stick with me, because the answer might surprise you. Let me start with a question. When was the last time someone explained to you what blood sugar actually does in your body? Not just the numbers on your meter, but what's really happening. Most people never get that explanation. They just know they need to keep their numbers down, and that's where the confusion begins. Here's the thing about blood sugar. It's not just about the food you eat. That's what everyone focuses on. You eat something sweet, your blood sugar goes up. You eat something with carbs, your blood sugar goes up. So naturally, you think the solution is simple: eat less of those things. And yes, that matters. But it's only half the story. In fact, it might not even be the most important half. Your blood sugar is controlled by something called insulin. Think of insulin like a key. Your pancreas makes this key, and when you eat, that key is supposed to unlock your cells so they can take in the sugar and use it for energy. But here's where the trap comes in. Over time, especially as we get older, something happens to those locks. They start to get rusty. The key still works, but it doesn't work as well as it used to. Your cells stop responding to that key the way they should. We call this insulin resistance, and it's absolutely silent. You can't feel it happening. There are no warning signs. You just wake up one day and your numbers are higher than they used to be, even though you haven't changed anything about what you eat. And this is the part that catches most people off guard. You could be doing everything right with your diet, and your numbers could still be climbing. Why? Because the real problem isn't always about what you're eating. The real problem is that your body isn't responding to insulin the way it should anymore. You could cut your carbs in half, and if your insulin resistance is getting worse, your numbers might barely budge. I talked to a man named Robert a few months ago. He's 68, retired, lives in Ohio. He told me he'd been diabetic for about 12 years. He'd always been pretty careful with his diet. He didn't eat a lot of sugar. He watched his portions. But about 2 years ago, something shifted. His fasting blood sugar, that's the number when you first wake up in the morning before you eat anything, started creeping up. It went from the 130s to the 150s, then to the 170s. His doctor kept adjusting his medication, adding more pills, and Robert kept thinking, what am I doing wrong? He felt like he was failing. He'd cut his carbs even more. He started walking every day. He lost weight. And still, those morning numbers wouldn't come down. When I asked him, has anyone ever explained to you what's actually happening with your insulin? He said no. Nobody had. His doctor had just kept saying, your diabetes is progressing. We need to add another medication. But Robert wasn't progressing into worse diabetes. What was happening was his insulin resistance was getting worse. And that's completely different. Because once you understand that distinction, you can actually do something about it. This is why so many people feel stuck. They're fighting the wrong battle. They're trying to control their blood sugar by controlling their carbs. But their real problem is that their body isn't using insulin efficiently anymore. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof by painting the walls. You might feel like you're doing something, but you're not actually addressing the real issue. And here's something else that makes this trap so dangerous. Insulin resistance doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with symptoms. You can't tell your doctor, I think my insulin resistance is getting worse. Because how would you know? The only way you find out is when your blood sugar numbers start going in the wrong direction. By then, it's been happening silently for months, maybe even years. Your pancreas has been working harder and harder, pumping out more and more insulin, trying to force those rusty locks to open. And your body has been getting more and more resistant to that insulin. It's a slow, invisible spiral. The reason I'm telling you all this is because it changes everything about how you should be managing your health. If you think your problem is just about carbs and sugar, you'll keep doing the same things that aren't working. But if you understand that insulin resistance is the real culprit, you can actually start addressing it. And that's where things get interesting. Now, the question is, why does insulin resistance happen in the first place? And more importantly, why does it seem to happen more as we get older? Because here's what most people don't realize. Insulin resistance isn't just about genetics or bad luck. It's actually connected to things you're probably doing every single day without even knowing it. Let me explain what happens in your body. When you eat, your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas senses that rise and releases insulin. That insulin tells your cells to grab that sugar out of your bloodstream and use it. But over time, if this process happens too many times, or if it happens too intensely, your cells start to get overwhelmed. They're like a security guard who's been hearing the same alarm go off over and over again. Eventually, they stop paying attention. The alarm keeps going off, but the guard just ignores it. That's insulin resistance. So what causes this alarm to go off too many times? There are actually several things, and this is where most people miss the trap entirely. Yes, eating too many refined carbs and sugars is one factor, but it's not the only one. And for some people, it might not even be the biggest one. Think about your typical day. You wake up and maybe you have a bowl of cereal or some toast with jam. Your blood sugar spikes. A few hours later, you're hungry again, so you grab a snack, maybe some crackers or a muffin. Another spike, then lunch, then an afternoon snack, then dinner. If you're eating the standard American diet that most of us grew up eating, you're creating these blood sugar spikes multiple times a day. Your pancreas is releasing insulin multiple times a day. Your cells are getting bombarded with signals multiple times a day. And after months and years of this, they stop responding. But here's where it gets tricky. It's not just about how often you eat. It's also about what happens between meals. And this is something almost nobody talks about. When you finish eating, your blood sugar should gradually come back down. But if you're eating frequently throughout the day, your blood sugar never really gets a chance to come all the way down before you eat again. You're living in a state of constant, mild elevation. Your insulin is constantly elevated. Your cells are constantly being bombarded with signals. And over time, they become resistant to those signals. I met a woman named Patricia who works as a receptionist in a dental office in North Carolina. She's 62 years old and has had type 2 diabetes for about 8 years. She told me something that really stuck with me. She said, "I never thought about when I eat. I just thought about what I eat." She'd have breakfast at 7, a coffee and snack at 9, lunch at noon, another snack at 3, dinner at 6, maybe something else at 8. She was eating 6 times a day, sometimes 7. And she wasn't eating huge portions. She was just eating frequently. Her blood sugar was never stable. It was constantly spiking and dropping, and her pancreas